What's going on, guys? Joseph from H2O Plants, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at probably our best-selling plant, and that is dwarf water lettuce. So before we get into dwarf water lettuce, just make sure you hit that like button and subscribe here if you're new, just so you don't miss out on any future videos. And yeah, let's get into it. So what's the deal with dwarf water lettuce? Well, dwarf water lettuce is a very easy to grow floating plant, and when I say floating, it's not like just a plant that floats in your aquarium. It's a plant that actually floats on the surface of the water, much like lily pads would in any pond or anything like that. However, it doesn't need to be planted in the tank. The reason being is it literally just floats on the water. Its roots hang down and that's it, and it is a really fantastic plant. But the problem is, when it comes to us selling it, is we don't have a distributor for it. We can't really find anybody that sells it at a wholesale level, so we're forced to grow it ourselves. And you know, this is as tiny as one that I can find. They can be really tiny. They're, you know, they resemble duckweed and stuff. If I could get it to focus here, focus. Yeah, so I mean that's no bigger than my finger down, but you can get ones that are as big as the palm of your hand. I've actually had one that was as big as the palm of my hand. This one isn't that quite as big, but you can also see here the roots that hang down. And this is a relatively small plant, I would say. They can get big, but that's going to depend on a lot of situations. So, like I said, it's a floating plant, floats on top of the water. The reason being that that is a good thing is because it's not dependent on any of the circumstances within your water, other than the fact that it can get nutrients from your water. It doesn't need CO2 injection because its leaves are actually on the surface of the water, meaning it is getting all the CO2 and all the oxygen and everything that it needs out of the water. So it just requires a whole lot less care. Now, it does grow super fast. It will spread like crazy. Not as bad as duckweed or any of that, you know, like that kind of floating plant. And it is more manageable. When you want to get rid of it, you can literally just stick your hand in and pick up a clump of it and, you know, throw it in your compost garden outside, or, you know, put it on your lawn if you want, and it'll eventually mulch up. The benefits of having it in your aquarium is it is just going to suck up all the nitrates. People oftentimes talk about using pothos or peace lily in your aquarium, and you know, those are plants that grow up out of water. They're technically terrestrial plants. They're meant to be planted in wet soil, but they can be floated in aquariums, and their roots can be in the aquarium. Well, this is a specific plant that is best for that because it reproduces like crazy. It's probably one of the fastest growing plants you can get, and it'll just cover your entire tank within no time. So say if you have a tap water that is high in nitrogen or high in minerals and you want it to be absorbed, this plant will absorb it much quicker than pretty much any other plant that you can think of. So now I showed you those roots, right? These roots right here. So these make excellent hiding places for baby fish and or shrimp. So if you have, you know, a shrimp tank and you're looking for something for the shrimp to hang out in, or the baby fish, these are great. They could be used as spawning mops in a way. Once they get big and really full, their root system can be probably about a foot deep. I've seen it in my own tanks. I've had, you know, I had a plant that was roughly about this big around, just one single plant, and the roots were just massive. They probably, I would say, at least a foot. But that's over time. That's an ideal condition. So good lighting, not a whole lot of flow. They don't like a lot of flow. If you have a lot of flow, they're actually going to grow much smaller because they're being pushed around a lot. But when they can kind of stay settle and not move all around a lot, then they're going to grow much bigger. You can even put these guys outside in a pond and they'll grow massive. They'll grow a lot bigger than they will in any aquarium. So if you have a pond, great for that. They're great for, you know, like goldfish or koi ponds, because kois can't really eat them. If you got really tiny ones, they might be able to, but bigger ones like this, they're going to be a little bit harder to snack on. And, you know, so you could grow them out in like a little, you know, tub maybe until they get a bit bigger, and then put them in your koi pond. Probably work great. If you have a cichlid tank or any sort of goldfish tank indoors, these could also be utilized. It's not really a plant that's often thought about because it's not inside your aquarium, essentially. Like, it's not in the water, like under the water, but it is above the water, and it is helping. It's doing the primary function that you may want plants to do, and that's absorb those fish waste. So dwarf water lettuce reproduces by runners, or what you could call runners, I guess. They're connected with this little tiny tether here, and basically it'll just continue producing more and more all across the surface of your aquarium. If you ever want to take it and move it somewhere else, you just detach it, just rip it off from here and plant it somewhere else, or put it in a different tank or wherever. The ideal situation is wait till it has at least 2 or 3 leaves and then move it. You don't want to just get it when it's really tiny because sometimes they won't survive on their own. Usually they're feeding off the bigger plant until they're a bit bigger, so just keep that in mind. So I made a couple videos on floating plants before. I've done videos involving dwarf water lettuce, and I kind of have to redo those a little bit. But in this video, let me just preface kind of floating plant care, and this is for any plant that grows on the surface of the water and has its leaves exposed to the air and its roots down wet. So what you want to kind of do is always keep the leaves wet. They do have a hydrophobic coating on their leaves typically. When a water droplet falls on it, normally it'll roll off in a sense. However, sometimes you may have lids on your aquariums. Now, if you have a lid that is super tight, it may form condensed water droplets on the underside of it, which will eventually drop down and continuously keep the tops of the leaves wet. That's not a good thing. You want these leaves to stay dry. So if you do have a lid like that, consider leaving it open just a crack, just enough that the moisture can escape and not pool on the bottom and create condensate. Also, like I said, less flow means the bigger these guys will grow. More flow, the smaller they'll grow. So however you want to grow them, if you want to get them bigger, keep that in mind. They want a little bit of flow. If you want them to stay smaller, then have a really good kind of pool, circling effect in your aquarium where the water is just constantly pushing them, and they'll stay small for you. Like I said, floating plants are heavy nutrient feeders, so they're going to absorb a ton of nutrients in your aquarium. So you may want to be dosing nutrients if you have other plants and you don't want these guys just sucking everything out that the plants, because these will absorb nutrients much faster than any other plant will. So it's possible that your nitrogen levels could go down to 0 essentially with these guys because they're using it all. So just keep that in mind, possibly dose some nutrients if depending on your setup. And that's really about it. They're super easy to grow plants. I think everybody should take a look at them. Like I said, we'll try and keep them in stock the best we can, but they sell out very quickly. So if we don't have them available, put your email on that list and hopefully you'll get notified in time and be able to get them when we have them available. But that's really about it. Let me know what you think about dwarf water lettuce. Are you thinking about picking some up? Have you been trying to? Maybe we just haven't had it in stock enough for you to get it. Yet again, I apologize, but it's just kind of one of those plants that I have no control over, unfortunately. So if you enjoyed the video, learned anything new, hit that like button. If you're new here, consider hitting subscribe. If you want to check out any of our previous videos, you could click either one of those, and I'll see you next time.